portfolio is a valuable tool for showcasing your work. It's also very important in interviews. An employer will often use that in part to make the decision on whether to hire you or not. We're going to be using Google Sites to create an online digital portfolio. We're also going to be going to review other parts of the Google ensemble of apps, including Google Drive. First thing we need to do is we need to create a Google account. Many of you already have Google accounts. You have Gmails, and those are the email addresses that we have in store to be able to communicate with you from school. What we're going to do is make sure that when you create your Google account that you use your existing email address that I have and the school has on record. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a Google account if you don't have one already that corresponds to that email address. But we're going to create a Google account using your existing email address that you use. So we're going to go up in here and we're going to go to Google account, and let's go ahead and just hit enter, and in your options right in here, let's go ahead and go down to create an account, and the site that comes up is create your Google account. In this example, I'm just going to go partially into this. I'm going to type in my name, tab over to Rodriguez. And right in here where it says username, what it's saying is it's wanting you to type something in that's going to create a Gmail account. What we want to do is just create a Google account using your current email address instead. So right in here, there's a button that you can left click, and your email address right in here, here's mine onto there. Then I would create a password and confirm it right in there and go to next and follow the instructions, and by then you should be able to complete your Google account using your existing email address. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to my Google tab up in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at how I can find Google Sites from this site. If you look in here, we've got an icon in here that represents, that is my Google account that I've created in here, and right next to it there is a waffle, and it is the Google Apps. So I'm going to left click on that, and it shows me all the apps that are available in here. Unfortunately, one of the apps that's not seen right in here is Google Sites. Here we have Google Drive, which we'll be talking about later on. But let's go ahead and scroll down to the bottom, and where it says More from Google, I'm going to left click on that. And when the web page loads, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, and here you have all the products, and if you scroll, I think, a little bit further down, there we have Google Sites. So I'm going to left click on there, and this is the site we're going to start creating our online portfolio. As you notice, I've already started creating one as a test site that we did in there. So what we want to do is create a new one. We're going to go down to the bottom right where it says create new site. Left click on that. And we have already an untitled site that we can then begin to modify and save. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to type in here, let's say, I'm just going to use a general name, John Doe, and type in portfolio. And I'm going to click down in here. Now make sure that this is not cut off. I think there's a limited number of characters that you can do. We can then change your page title, and I will call this also. Let's call that John Doe Portfolio. You can be a little bit more creative than that if you want to, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this in a lower part right in there, And if I didn't want it that big, if you look at the edit bar above for the text, I can change it from title, which is the size it is now, to heading. Even smaller if I want to, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it at title. And right now it defaulted to center, but if I wanted it to left, justified, I could. If I wanted to right, I could. I'm just going to go ahead and center it right now and click right in there. So there's John Doe Portfolio. Now, where did they get this imagery from? What we have is we have on the right side here, you have 3 tabs that you can select. The default theme that they chose in this case was simple. We have a limited number of themes here to use with. Google Sites is not as robust a web authoring page as some other websites that can create online portfolios for you, such as Wix or Squarespace or Portfolio. But for this, just to get our feet wet, we're going to go ahead and use Google Sites. Now let's go ahead and let's go through the different themes that are available. First one was simple. This one's called Aristotle, Diplomat, Vision, Level, and Impression. All of these are acceptable. They're very straightforward and simple. Remember, this is a professional portfolio that we're trying to create. So we do not want to be very flowery. We don't want to have too many different things happening on it. We want to be able to get our point across. So I like to use the simple theme. It again presents itself well. The text is easy to read. There's a number of reasons why I like this one. If you take a look at your background here, this is called your header up into here, and you can change header types. If you click in here, you can have the background image cover the entire thing. You can go with a large banner, regular banner, or just the title itself. Now notice in the theme, the color of the text is based on the color you select here. So if you wanted it black, you could do black, you could do purple, red. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at what it is. But for the header type, I'm going to go ahead and leave the banner right in here. Now one of the things you can also do is if you click in here, you can change the image background. If you have a nice image that you can fade in the background with another software program like Photoshop or so on to make sure that the text pops out. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as the existing image that we've got. Let's go back to our tabs here on the right and let's take a look at some of the options. Right now all we have is our title page. So what we want to make sure that we do is we create additional pages that are going to highlight and showcase our work. So let's go to the pages right in here, and if you notice the only one we have is our home page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the bottom here on the right and I'm going to create a new page, and I'm going to title this one is About. Now this page is going to be used to give information about yourself. This is sort of where you would put the information you have on your resume. You might put a small image of yourself or an icon that represents something about you. So let's go ahead and let's click on About right here. And if you notice, what we have is it's sort of duplicated the cover page. I don't want this header and this background in here. I want something easier to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete the header. And I have a blank page to work with. What I'm going to go ahead now is create a few more pages, and these should correspond to the work that you're going to highlight. So I'm going to go ahead and click plus. My next page, in this case, I'm just going to use Introduction to Drafting. And I'm going to say done. Another one I'm going to create is Drafting Assistant, and we can go on with the different courses in the program that way. I'm going to go ahead and create one more, And let's say this one is architectural. Drafting. I forgot an I in there. There we go. Done. So what you can do is create as many tabs as you're going to need. If you are just starting off in the program, you might only have one tab. You might want to add other tabs of personal work that you've done. If you love to draw, if you love to photograph, you can begin to add those to your portfolio. Again, they say things about you. Another one that might be important is you might want a page with certificates and awards located in there that you can do. So let's go ahead and let's go back to the About page right in here. And let's see how we can start putting either images or text on there. If you go once again to the tabs on the right hand side, you can look at the Insert tab right in here, and you have 4 options right in here that you can start putting into in here. Or you can go out here to where it says Layouts and Themes and select one of them. For this About page, I'm going to go ahead and select one of the layouts here. I'm just going to select the first one in here. And what it does, it creates a section right in here with a text box already built into it and a spot to put an image. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and left click in here. And in my case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to upload an image. Let's just click one real quick in here. And what I need to do is to make sure that it is going to be rotated in the right direction. There we go. I'm going to make it like that, but I definitely don't want such a large image of myself located in there. And I'm going to make that small. Now notice the section dividing line in here has changed with that. This isn't quite what I needed. I need to not have my head cut off. So let's see, I need to stretch this out just a little bit right into there. That gets that. I'm going to go ahead in here and I am going to start putting information about myself. Now when I started typing, it went ahead and went in as a title, and my next page I can put start putting information about myself. Now you can cut and paste information from your resume, or you can have any other additional information that you might want to do. Now I don't like the size of this text, so I can highlight right in there and change right in here on the text edit box. I'm going to change it to a heading, and this one right in here is normal text. That is correct, and there what I've done is I've clicked that. So that looks pretty good. Obviously this needs to be a little bit more extensive, and as I continue and make this more extensive, this dividing line will be located right in there. Now this About page should be very simple. Should not have too much imagery, as I mentioned before, but it should contain sufficient information in here that they can learn about you. All right, let's go back to now Introduction to Drafting. And here we can start creating a page in here with the work that you may have done Introduction to Drafting, whether it's just some of the sections, some of the things you did in your first class. The typical way that we use this is we would be, because most of your work is in PDF and not images, you would have to bring in a PDF. Well, you do not have that option in here, but you do have the option to bring in PDFs into your drive, your Google Drive. So as an example, if I click on Northern Home here, you notice that I have populated the drive with the PDFs from that project. Now I don't have access to Google Drive right from here, but I have it open already up on the top. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to show you how you can download a PDF down onto your Google Drive so that you can then transfer it over to your Google site. First thing we're going to do is, if you go up in here on the right and you go to New, you can left click on that and it gives you the options to file upload or folder upload. You would select file upload, and from there you can select whatever type of file you may want to use. Most of these are image files that I want in there, but if it was a PDF file, you could bring it in. Another thing that's important when you do bring in your files in here is to make sure that you can share them with your people that want to look at your site. What you need to do is to change the settings once you bring them in here. Now, if you take a look at Google Drive, I've populated with a number of different file types. I've got Word documents, which I then converted to Google Docs. I've got PDFs, I've got images, I've got different things that I use. I've even downloaded folders such as the Northern Home with a number of PDFs into it. Same thing with the Marion located right in here, which I can then bring into the site. I'm going to go ahead and go back to this, and I'm going to show you first on how we can change sort of the settings on this so that it can be shared, but it can also be controlled. If you highlight it and right click, and you need to do this to each one, you go to share and you take a look at it here. This one needs to be set to anyone on the internet can find and view. We will change that potentially later, but not for now. We want to be able to do that. So one of the things we want to do is make sure that that is set to that, but we need to go down to advanced in here. And what I want to change is, I want to change this part right in here just for later on. I want to make sure that they can only be viewed. And down in here, I want both of these clicked on. It says prevent editors from changing access and adding new people, and it also disable options to download, print, and copy to commenters and viewers. So I'm going to click done, and we've got that all set up. So be careful and make sure that you do not have people be able to download these files. Let's go back to our site located right in here. And I'm going to go ahead and go to Drafting Assistant. I'm going to close this out to show you some of the options that we have. This time I'm not going to use one of the layouts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start populating this with the PDFs that we have, and then adding text boxes and so on to it. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to go to my drive, and I'm going to start with the Marion in this case. So I'm going to highlight the Marion. It says I'm going to highlight the folder, and then from here I'm going to select a couple of the drawings from the Marion. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this one, and I'm going to insert it, and if you notice, it created a section automatically. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I click in here inside the section, and I'm going to from drive again, double click on the Marion, and in this case I'm going to do the floor plan, and notice when I clicked on the section, it loaded it in the section. If I did not do that and just tried to insert it, it would create a new section for that drawing. So what I'm going to do now is I want to create a heading up at the top that tells me that it's the Marion, and then I want to do some headings on the bottom that tells me that it is A-1 site plan, and this one is A-2 floor plan. So once again, in the section, I'm going to double click and I'm going to put a text box. Now it puts it automatically underneath the image that you had put in the PDF. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create another one, text box. And I now have two text boxes in here. And if I begin to text, notice the size of the box has been determined by the selection size that you have for the text onto here. Now that's going to become important when we try to line these two up into here. So what I'm going to go ahead and under normal text, I'm going to type in A-1 site plan. I want to center it, but I want it a little bit bigger, so I'm going to go to subheading with that. And I'm going to do the same thing to this one. I'm going to go to subheading, enter, and I'm going to tap A-2 floor plan. Now these are pretty descriptive in terms already, but I still don't know what the project is. So I need to create a text box up at the top. So I'm going to double click again and do a text box. Unfortunately it puts it down in here, but if I hover over and look at these arrows, I can bring it on up, and when you see the blue top of the image or that selection come up, it'll place the text box right in here. A little bit of a problem though is now my drawings are not aligned. So I am going to go ahead and create another text box and move it up into the top. Now this is based on normal text, and this one, which is we're going to leave empty, is based on normal text. But the minute that I do this and I type, let's say the Marion, right in here, and I want to change it, I'm going to go ahead and center it. But I want to go ahead and change it to heading. Now what it did is shifted the image down with it, so I actually, even though I'm not going to put anything in it, if I want them to remain, I am going to go ahead and change that to heading, and it remains lined up into there. The other thing I don't like is that I have more of a gray area down in here. So if you notice, when you click once, everything, including what it has done, including the text box in the top and the bottom, what it has done to those is that it has attached them to that. So I cannot edit this. When I try to edit this gray area in here, I have to isolate my image. So I am going to click on that, and I'm going to bring this up sufficiently so that it matches. If I bring it up too high, notice the bar on the right gets a little too dark. So I prefer to be somewhere right around in here. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Just highlight that portion by double clicking, and I'm going to bring that up about to there. And there we go. Now we've got our tabs across the top. There's the drafting assistant right into there. Notice that those tools that showed up in order to create a larger image than this is important, because we want to be able to take a look at these drawings in closer detail. So how do we do that? The way that it brought in the PDF, if you click on it, it's not going to do it right at this point. It will only do it when you begin to publish it and you take a look at it. So let's go ahead and let's publish. Now I think this is the first time that we're going to publish this, so let's see what the options are. When you publish, what it does, it asks you to create a web address. It's going to attach whatever you type in here to the back of this path right in here. So let's say I wanted to create a unique name for this, and I type John Doe. Well, it's telling me, no, that's already taken. Well, let's try Portfolio. Tells me that's taken. So unfortunately, you got to create something unique. And let's just go ahead and do that. That it accepted. I'm going to go ahead and publish. And now you've published the site for the first time. Let's go ahead and let's view it down here. And that's what we're going to see in here. Now eventually those tools, as I mentioned before, should go away onto the imagery like that. But the minute you hover over it, it becomes available. So look what happens when I want to take a closer look at this, but it's not letting me take a look at it. What it is going to let me is I can zoom in this limited square, which doesn't help me much, or I can left click on the pop out. It'll open it up. I can maximize it here, fit to view, and then we can begin to take a look at it. You can scroll left and right. You can scroll up and down. You can bring it just a little bit smaller into there. So this is a great tool that's used to be able to look at it. And I think about as far as you can go is going to be about there. And then you have to go ahead and scroll left and right and up and down onto there. So what we can do is let's go ahead and close out of this image that we've got right into there. Puts us back into there. Now this is the actual site that whoever you've invited to is going to be seeing. So they're going to be seeing your home page, how you created, your about page. We haven't put anything into Introduction to Drafting, but we have begun to populate the drafting assistant. So once you also create this, you are still in control of it, so you can get back to the editing portion by going back to edit this page on the bottom right, and it puts you back to where you want to go. So let's now create a second one. We're going to go ahead and click down in here, and let's go ahead and let's just use the same method that we did. Let's see what happens if we go here to the left, and we can say, hey, let's duplicate this section so you don't have to go through all that again. So what I can do in here is I can probably delete this image right into here. So let's go ahead and just delete the image. I'm going to go ahead and delete this image. I'm going to go ahead and change my text to Northern Home. I'm trying this for the first time also, so let's see how well I do onto this. What I want to do now is I want to bring in another image and put it right in here. We've got two separate texts. So what I need to do is I am going to go ahead and I am going to double click in here, and I'm going to go back to my drive, open up my Northern Home folder, and there I'm going to go ahead and insert it. And let's see if that works. Well, it created it in the right location, but left and right, but it's below where I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and move it to above that imagery, and now I've got my text up in here, and I've got my site plan right into there. So let's go ahead and let's try to do the same thing in here. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go to my drive, and let's go to Northern Home. This time I don't want to use the floor plan. I'm going to go ahead and I am going to use an elevation sheet. Insert, and I will go ahead and move that guy up to where I wanted. And there we go. All I need to do now is edit this, and let's just assume it's A-5. Elevations. Let's capitalize that so we stay consistent. And last but not least, let's go ahead and isolate the image from the rest of the column, and let's bring that up into there, and bring that up into there. Now, I'm going to go ahead and try to insert a third image across in here. One of the things you're going to be is very selective about what you put in here. I don't need to see every bit of work that you've done. It could become monotonous onto that, and that's not the intent of the portfolio. What you want to do is highlight the best work. So let's go ahead and let's try to put another PDF in here, or image, or something that you may have if you have a rendering of this. Let's go ahead and let's create another one in here, and let's see if we can actually put it in without having to create a new section. I'm going to go ahead and double click here. I'm going to go to my drive under Northern Home. This time I'm going to select something a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead and select one of these. I'm going to insert it, and unfortunately what it did, it created it right underneath this one. So what I want to do is I want to create it here on the left, and let's see on the right, and let's see what happens. Well, what it did, it sort of changed everything in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and move this one right in between, and okay, that's interesting. What we obviously need to do at this point is we need to line them all up again, and let's see what's the best way to do that. I'm going to go ahead and move this one back over to here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new text box right in here. I'm going to create a new text box. I guess there's two of them in here. I'm going to move one to the top into here to sort of match with that one. Again, change it to, actually I'm going to change it to heading onto there so it lines up. And I've got this one kind of lined up at the top. So I've got them the way that I want. The only thing I don't have is this lining up with the Northern Home. I think that is going to become a problem because of the way that I set this up. See if you can work that out, but I'll show you what I'm talking about in 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start bringing this one. Now, when I start doing that, take a look at what happens to the boxes that we have in here. You have vertical line columns that begin to limit you where you can move some of this information. So let's go ahead and let's bring this one over also. I want to shift this over to this one. And I'm going to shift this one over one more. And now that makes all three of them about the same width. I think there is a little bit of an exception. This one looks a little bit bigger. I'm not sure if we're going to have an option to be able to fix that, but let's go ahead. It looks like they're about the same. Okay, let's just fix a couple of little things so that we have things that line up correctly. That I want about there. About there. That looks good. The only thing I got to do in here is I need to add that. I'm not sure if it's a -9, but let's just go ahead and do wall sections. Change it to the right size. I think I had them as subheadings, and it's not a mall section, it's a wall section. There we go. And that looks pretty good. My only problem right now is that this text does not line up with this text into here because of the difference in the size. And I'm not sure what's the best way to do that, but there may be a little bit of the trick to where I can actually move this one over to here. I need to eliminate the other text that we had in there. Let's bring this one back in here. Actually, what I needed to do, I'm going to undo because that was not the best way to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy this text. And I'm going to paste it in there. Eliminate the text that was in there before. Actually, what happens is that it keeps the formatting in, so you actually have to press the back. And here I'm going to go ahead and delete this text and go to there. So now I have it to the right where I want it, but it still doesn't line up with this. Well, here I'm just going to mess a little bit with this. I'm just going to go ahead and what I can do is just do right. Actually, let's go ahead and let's do left justified, and I'm going to manually move it over to there. And that looks a little bit better, maybe just a little bit more. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a look at it. I want to see what it looks like. I need to publish it so that it maintains the latest changes. I'm going to go ahead and publish. And this is the latest version, the published version in there. Onto that. I'm going to go ahead and I want to, with a little arrow next to the publish button right up in here, one of the options is view published site. And there it is. That is that one page. Again, we have the home page and about page, and then you can populate any one of these sections that you've created with your work. Now, there are other options. There are links you can add. There's a lot of different things that you can make this a little bit more robust, but for now this is a great start for it. So what we want to make sure is, let's go back to the editing, and one of the things we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and publish this and make sure, right now it's under draft, right now the published versions anyone can find and view. By the way, that is one of the reasons why in the About portion, the About tab, you do not put any personal information. Just put the information you would have on a site where you do not want people to be able to have your phone numbers, your addresses, any of that information that they have. For now, I don't want you even to put an email address on there. We can do this later once we get these established to a certain point, and we can change our publish modifications to where you can send them to specific people. If you are going to leave information on there that you don't mind getting from the public, I still highly recommend not to do this at this point. So do not put any information onto there. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, once this has already been published, I wanted to take a look at my view published sites. We've already done that. So one of the things, the last things we're going to do in here is we're going to change our settings for share with others. There's a little silhouette of a person there with a plus. We're going to highlight that. Now the draft you can leave as it is, specific people, but the published you need to leave it at or put it onto anyone can find and view this published version for now. Again, reiterating, do not put any private information on there. So let's go ahead and we can just then save. And at this point, when you want to share with others, what you can do is send an invitation. So what I do want you to do in here is when you think you've completed it to a certain point, you can send it to some of your friends also, but I definitely want you to send it to me. So, and I want you to put this link or this invitation, I want you to copy it to Canvas. I should be getting an email if you invite me to it from here. So my email, once again, is enrique.rodriguez@browardschools.com. Disregard the other one that popped up earlier in there, so there's enrique.rodriguez. The other thing you want to do is when you invite, even if you don't invite people, you want to click on this, only view. You don't want people to be able to edit it. Now, later on, once I comment on this, I may want you to change this so that I can actually go on there. But right now our setting is set to published, anyone can find and view. So when you have that, make sure that this is set to view only. So I'm going to go ahead and send, and I should have sent myself an email with an invitation to open up that site. So I click done, and let's take a look at the final site one more time. There is John Doe Portfolio, the About, Introduction to Drafting, Drafting Assistant. And I think that's all we really did at this point. So this is all we need to do. Make sure to be selective about your drawings that you're going to put in there on your PDFs. I showed you how to bring them into Google Drive. So have at it. Do your best, and good luck.